Boo, 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 boo. We discussed this during executive session. We reviewed the current public member program. In general, the attendance has been excellent, and the co-chairs felt vast majority that it was a value add to their committees. So we'll be continuing the program for another year. Jesse will be talking in a second about the specifics of how public member applications will work. Lastly, announcing 2 waivers, Beverly Donahue for health and potentially Elizabeth Caputo, although I'm not sure if she made it in time. Okay, online. Okay, great. So those are the 2 waivers. And that's my full report. And next up is Jesse.
Hi, everyone. I'll report on initiatives from the board office first. Macy Haft was officially hired. She was hired on November 2nd. She's a community assistant. She'll be working part-time, doing 20 hours a week. Also, we have our office staff has been working on projects to enhance community engagement, raise awareness of our work, and provide resources to help constituents advocate for the quality of life. These efforts are in the early stages and more information will be shared soon. Some of them are exploring civics for all opportunities with DOE through District 3 and the YEL committee. Data collecting projects are underway in the district, including a database for building managers' information, and also track issues that are broken and need our attention within the district. In regards to the committees, just like Alex shared, we will have the public member applications will be opening later on this month. Official notice will go out with further information and details. Because Parks and Environment is not reporting any initiative tonight, I would like to report that Riverside Parks River Run Playground reconstruction will be heard this month before the Parks and Environment Committee on December 15th at 6:30. Also, the Health and Human Services will not meet this month due to the holiday season and significant travel. Also, as of last, the office shares committees and full board meetings to link NYC kiosks across the district. So that's it.
Thank you, Jesse. Let me share my screen. Before we pass it over to Kevin, we've started the roll call early in order to make sure everyone's voting is working. So there's a few people who have still not voted. Yes, to say that you're here. Okay, okay, okay. And I'm passing it to Kevin.
So thank you and good evening, everyone. So going over our fiscal position, I'm happy to report we are in great financial shape. So this is our usual budget analysis that I present on an ongoing basis. So our budget's a little over $476,000 for the fiscal year. If you factor out what we've paid so far in salaries, what we've incurred in other than temporary, other than personal services expenses and rent, and then if you X out restricted items, we have roughly $227,000 left. And then the column that says projected personal service expenses, we're trying to project out for the next 16 pay periods, salaries for our 2 staff people, and Maisie, our new intern that started November 2nd. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Is that better? Yes. So if you factor in the 2 staff people, as well as Maisie, who's our part-time hire, that Jesse said that just started November 2nd. And if you factor out other projected personal expenses, we have roughly a little over $84,000. If you can, Alex, if you can. And that's because we don't have Max. Max left us on October 27th. So the next screen, what we try to do is we're assuming we hire our new district manager. We're assuming a start date of February 1st. Additionally, because Max left, we are required to pay accrued PTO, which has been estimated by OMB to be $20,000. So when all is said and done, we're going to projected to have a little over $18,000 in salary expense surplus for this year. And that's because the new district manager is coming in at a slightly lower salary level than Max, as well as the fact we lost almost 3 months as Max's salary since he wasn't here, leaving on October 27th. So we are in great fiscal health, and we've got about 9,000, 10,000 in OTPS, which we can spend. Actually, 19,000, not 10,000, which 11,000 is council funds. So we will talk at our next exec meeting about how to spend those council funds, because if you don't use the funds, you lose the funds. So that's my report. I'm happy to answer questions or take comments. Jay, yes.
So yes, Jay's question was, what is the current status of the office occupancy, lease, etc.? We're still on a month-to-month. We're still working with the relevant city government related entities about how we get a long-term lease. We did have a presentation about other options besides the current office. All the options were much worse, for way more money, much less space. So we really don't want to move, but that's the current state. But we have nothing current that's like we'll be kicked out in 6 months. So.
Oh, I just want to also add, Jay, that the current projections assume that we continue to pay the full rent through the end of the fiscal year, which ends June 30th, 2026.
Other questions? Other questions? No. All right, Nandita.
Hi, everyone. You can hear me with the microphone? Awesome. So hi, I'm Nandita. I have a couple of tech and communications updates. So the first thing, I want to thank 70% of the board for responding to my 5-question survey. The response rate really helped me understand kind of the state. How about now? Should I just like be louder? All right. Okay, cool. I'll just be louder. So I just want to say thank you to the 70% of the board that responded to the survey. Your feedback was really helpful and really valuable. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. We had our first tech office hours last month. Thank you to Barbara for coming. I know it wasn't advertised on the calendar. So this month I will be adding it to the calendar, and there will be a Zoom for people who want to join remotely. The last tech office hours focused on increasing confidence on running Zoom meetings by ourselves, because the members of the office can't run Zoom meetings for us. And because of the Zoom rooms feature that Alex also added, I think it's made it a lot easier for us to run Zoom meetings by ourselves. If you guys have any lingering questions or feedback on that, feel free to let me know, and I'm definitely happy to help with that as well. This month's tech office hours, and I'll add it to the calendar, will be on December 14th from 2 to 3:30 p.m. It's going to be focused on the Google Drive, as well as Airtable and how to access documents. I will be taking suggestions for future topics, and these are non-mandatory. They're very optional, so we don't need quorum, but please don't leave me alone in the office. The last thing I'm going to be doing an evaluation of the website in terms of resources that need to be added or awareness of the resources that are already on there. Thanks to Roberta for pointing out some of the resources that we need to add. So if you have anything, feel free to email me and let me know, and I can add that on there as well. Thank you.
Okay, great. The next item is approval of minutes from previous board meeting. Second, all in favor? Great. I think we will now begin the community session. Are you ready with the timer, gentlemen? Great. The first person on our list, and we'll be doing the public session first, will be Sue Peters.
If you don't understand this very important message, please let me know. Just say stop. Okay. Tomorrow, December 3rd at 10 a.m. in the House of Representatives, Energy and Commerce Committee is a fast-track bill, HR 2289. We need to stop this. Highly respected telecom attorney, Andrew Campanelli, described the nearly identical legislation proposed in the prior Congress as, quote, the most evil piece of legislation I've ever seen, designed to strip all powers from state and local governments over the placement of wireless facilities, end quote. That means 5G towers anywhere in New York City, and you won't be able to stop it. The 5G towers will go into New York City's historic districts. If you own your home, wireless antennas will reduce its value. The bill will allow industry to place antennas and cell towers virtually anywhere in America and on any structure. Your neighbor's front yard, your neighbor's roof, in front of your apartment window, in front of your children's classrooms, and with no informed consent, no safety oversight, and an industry shielded from liability. Please inform yourself, tell your friends and neighbors.
Thank you. Next is Jennifer Czar from New York Public Library.
Hello, thank you. I work at the St. Agnes branch of the New York Public Library on Amsterdam between 81st and 82nd. Just a few quick announcements about some fun community programs that are coming up. On Saturday, December 13th at 11, we're having a puppet show, which is something we haven't done in a really long time. It's going to be on our children's floor. So if you're looking for a fun activity, please come out. Our next book sale will be Wednesday, December 17th from 12 to 4. Please come out and buy some books, support the library. Also, if you have some books that you would like to donate, we'd be happy to take them. So that's about it for me. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Next up is Sawaiba, in person or on Zoom? Zoom, okay.
Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Sawaiba, and I'm reporting on behalf of Mark Levine. This is going to be the last report on behalf of our office with Mark Levine present, so I'll jump right into it. Firstly, the leadership training series are now on YouTube. They'll be there until December 31st. So if you're a board member that still has to make up your leadership training series, please take advantage and let me know when you've completed it. Secondly, Borough President Levine recently sent a letter to the MTA and New York City Transit requesting data related to ghost plates. The letter requested information on the number of unreadable license plates that pass through the congestion pricing gantries and other tolls, as this data would help to understand how many cars are currently passing through the borough without legal plates. So this is work that the Borough President has been fighting for a long time and continues to do so. On November 18th, the Department of Buildings released a series of new designs for sidewalk sheds that will dramatically reduce the number of sheds that are on our city streets. You may remember the MBPO office-related Shed the Sheds in 2024, which laid out the foundation for this policy. The Borough President is very excited for this new design to unravel. And if there's anything that you'd like support on regarding this, please reach out. The Borough President also led food distributions across the borough, feeding many families, adding up to approximately 15,450 people. In partnership, we were joined by the West Side Campaign Against Hunger, Hunts Point Market and Meats Food First, Department of Veterans Services, Common Pantry, and Catholic Charities, and also our wonderful partner, Lincoln Center. So
30
once
seconds,
again,
please.
I know. Sorry. Okay, this is going to be the last thing that I'm going to say. It's a little long because this is the goodbye. Under Borough President Mark Levine, 43 ULURPs were completed from 2022 to 2025. And these ULURP actions include specifically proposed projects and neighborhood rezoning such as MSMX. Additionally, our recent testimony at an important hearing on right to counsel legislation, our office proudly spoke about his time in the city council, where he did countless legislations to help the city. I'll just lastly wrap it up. Lastly, Borough President Levine carries with him a deep understanding of the structural challenges that community boards face. Throughout his term, he has pushed for increased resources, better technology, and fairer treatment for city agencies, including DCAS, the Law Department, and City Hall. He has testified in 3 separate charter revision efforts to strengthen and clarify the city charter and knows how much more must be done. As he prepares to serve as the comptroller of New York City, his mission remains unfinished and his commitment to the work continues. For all your service, Borough President Mark Levine sends you a thank you and a goodbye.
Thank you. Next up will be Lisa McNulty from the WP Theater.
Hi, everybody. As advertised, I am Lisa McNulty from WP Theater. We are the oldest and largest theater in the country devoted to new work by women plus artists, and it's right in the neighborhood at 76th and Broadway. I wanted to let everyone know that next up is our 2nd annual Feelin' Fresh Festival, which is a free series of readings of new plays by brilliant artists, including a couple of Tony Award winners. They're happening in December and January, which also include free offerings from our partners at Levain Bakery and Orchard Hill Cidery. So you can come and get a free play and a cookie and some cider and enjoy some art with your neighbors. We'd also love to have you join us for our full season of new plays throughout the year. We are the only off-Broadway theater in the district. You can follow us, you can check us out at wptheater.org or follow us on all social media. And I hope you'll come and support us and enjoy the work of an award-winning arts organization that is just a stroll away.
Thank you. Mariana from Lincoln Center. And reminder, the roll call is open, so text your vote in if you came in.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Mariana Brazo from Lincoln Center. A few kind of updates and highlights from the past month. We partnered with Council Member Gail Brewer in School District 3 to host the 3rd annual Arts in School events. We had PTA presidents doing workshops with our resident arts organizations. We've been working with our partners across the district, our electeds, NYCHA, and School District 3 to serve Big Apple Circus community tickets to 2,700 New Yorkers. We also worked with Fordham to host a screening of the San Juan Hill documentary. And 2 weekends ago, we partnered with Goddard Riverside, Fordham, New York Society for Agriculture, and our elected officials, Senator Brad Hoylman-Segal, Councilmember Brewer, Borough President's Office, Assemblymember Rosenthal, to host our Thanksgiving distribution for the 3 NYCHA developments, Amsterdam Addition, Houses, and Harborview to serve 1,000 families with Thanksgiving meals. Coming up, we have programming all throughout December, so please check it out at Lincoln Center Presents, and we'll be announcing our songbook series tomorrow. Thanks so much. If you have any questions, you can find me after.
Thank you. Okay. I don't think we... Okay, Aquilino from the BID. On Zoom, I think.
Hello, everyone. Just briefly want to present on our holidays at Lincoln Square. First of all, tomorrow at 4 o'clock at Dante Park, we'll be hosting our Magical Light ceremony. We'll be turning on the lights at Dante Park. I don't know if you noticed, we already have the lights on 34 trees on the Broadway Mall. Tomorrow's a kickoff event, Dante Park at 4:30. We hope to see everyone there. Bring your kids. We're going to have the Saint of Swings, Cafe Music Center, and much more at Dante Park. So hope everyone can join us tomorrow starting at 4:30. The next event will be on Wednesday, December 17th it will be a winter ramble. This is a illuminated procession throughout the neighborhood. Come make a lantern at the TD Bank on Broadway and 62nd, starting at 3 o'clock. The procession will be starting at 5 on Broadway between 62nd and 63rd. And we'll be walking the neighborhood with a Frost Giant Puppets from Procession Workshop, JC Kings, and Colleen Bascope will be joining us. And this year, we are asking everyone to please donate to our charitable partners, which is the Lincoln Square Neighborhood Center. We're trying to help them as they are big, well-known in the community. And we want to make sure that everyone can contribute and help us raise funds for the Lincoln Square neighborhood. And lastly, if you're not able to make any of the events, the lights will be on at Dante Park and Richard Tucker Park starting tomorrow. Stop by, you could clap, you could sing, and these lights are reactive. And please join us on this celebration tomorrow, Dante, and on the 17th for the Winter Rumble. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Erica Overton.
Hi, everyone. Erica Overton from Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal's office. Few updates. The Assemblymember's legislation expanding access to the newly approved epinephrine nasal spray was signed into law last month prior to the drug's approval by the US FDA. Epinephrine autoinjectors were the only tool available to non-medical personnel to effectively treat anaphylaxis. And so under the new law, health insurance companies will be required to cover the nasal spray, just as they do auto injectors, and any out-of-pocket costs for the patients will be capped at $100. The Assembly member also introduced legislation last month requiring New York State to maintain a stockpile of both mifepristone and misoprostol. It empowers the state to also enter into an agreement with the manufacturer of the drug to exchange old or expiring abortion medication. And the bill also requires the state to distribute such medication to reproductive health care providers at no cost. Over the summer, the Trump administration, well, the bill was introduced because over the summer, the Trump administration appointed a handful of anti-abortion members to its Office of Legal Counsel, which signaled to many that the Comstock Act would be under fire. And so we wouldn't be able to mail medication abortion any longer. And so this bill tries to get around that by creating a distribution plan and our own stockpile in the event that the unspeakable happens. Also, the Assembly member, as well as Assembly member Lasher and State Senator Hoylman Segal, made an unannounced visit to 26 Federal Plaza last month. The Assembly member wrote about the experience in her weekly newsletter. But it was nothing short of disturbing. We saw ICE intimidation in action. The fear there was quite palpable. But we also witnessed people at their best. We saw many judges, hopefully they didn't get fired in the purge the other day, who were trying to be helpful. We saw volunteers who were helping. And so we're also plugging for if anyone is able to help. New Sanctuary Coalition, who planned the visit, is looking for volunteers to help them continue that work if anyone is interested. And that's it.
Great. Do you want to share the roll call screen? And then we can end the community session. So anyone, oh, please come on up, come on up.
Can I just say one more thing? Dante Magical Light Ceremony is on Thursday, December 4th, not tomorrow. Magical Lights at Dante is Thursday, December 4th at 4:30 p.m. Sorry about that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Wiener from Congressman Jerry Nadler's office. Since I've last been here, the government has reopened. The CR has passed through January. I hope come January, it's not going to be as exciting of a process, but never hope, never know. We'll just see. The ACA open enrollment is ongoing, I think through January in some cases. So if you have any questions about the ACA enrollment, let me know. Additionally, House Democrats are trying to get 218 votes for a discharge petition to extend the ACA tax subsidies for 3 years. Obviously, they're expiring. They have 214 signatures. They need 218. So see. The last thing that I want to say is Congressman Nadler, I believe the week before Thanksgiving, Laura Freeman, and the entire Jewish caucus wrote a letter to Secretary Kristi Noem to talk about the change of the swastika and news symbols from hate speech to potentially divisive. So I will keep you posted if she responds. Thanks so much. Have a lovely holiday season.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Grace. For those that don't know, from Assemblymember Lasher's office. Hope that everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know Assemblymember Lasher had a really nice week leading up to the holiday, distributing turkeys across the community to some of our NYCHA developments. I want to tell you about a few pieces of legislation that have been introduced recently. One, targeting tenant harassment to further support and protect tenants from being pushed out of their homes. Basically, under current law, you can't go after a landlord who is targeting tenants and pushing rent-regulated tenants out of their homes across multiple buildings. So this new bill from Assemblymember Lasher would change that so that we can hold those folks accountable and make sure that we're protecting our rent-regulated tenants. Another one is going after the fast rising grocery prices. He's just announced the Consumer Grocery Pricing Fairness Act, which basically prohibits suppliers from engaging in unfair price discrimination so that your local bodega, the Gristedes around the corner can offer competitive prices with the larger Amazon, Whole Foods sorts of folks. So trying to lower grocery prices and make affordability more possible for folks. And also just want to let you all know that we're hosting a representative from the West Side Campaign Against Hunger in our office on December 17th. So if you know anyone in the community who is dealing with any of the recent uncertainty around SNAP benefits, we're happy to make appointments and get people all sorted out. No, nothing's too small. So please feel free to stop by. We're on 104th Street at Broadway and happy to see each and every one of you.
Thank you. Julia Manza, and then we'll go. Also, a good tip, you have to pretend you're Shelley Fine, you know, and really project, speak slowly. It helps.
I love that advice. Always try to be like Shelley Fine. Hi, everybody. This is Julia Mayenza from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I supervise community engagement. A few announcements tonight. I first wanted to talk about a webinar we are holding in partnership with New York City's Human Rights Administration and the Department of Investigation on Tuesday, December 9th from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. I have a flyer I'm happy to send around about protecting and supporting vulnerable New Yorkers against EBT fraud. Unfortunately, this is an issue we are continuing to see in our borough, but it's also happening nationwide, and it gives tips on how to report and avoid this kind of fraud. I also wanted to announce the legislation that DA Bragg had announced alongside Assemblymember Lasher, as well as State Senator Brian Kavanaugh, that Grace mentioned so eloquently, and mention a few of the recent prosecutions we've had in the tenant harassment space, including the indictment of a landlord for allegedly harassing two older rent-regulated tenants in Chelsea, the indictment of a man for allegedly stealing over $32,000 in Midtown by falsely representing himself as the landlord of a studio, the indictment of a man for allegedly stealing approximately $25,000 from 3 victims through an apartment rental scam, and the indictment of 3 individuals and 3 companies for trying to steal a Harlem brownstone by posing as the heir of the deceased owner and committing deed fraud, allegedly. So all of these can be found in our newsletter, which is a great tool and a great place to get information about the work our office is doing. With my remaining time, I'd also like to mention applications are still open for our Youth Ambassador program. It is open for people aged 16 to 19 who reside in Manhattan. I think it's going to be 2 folks selected from each area, each neighborhood, to give their, opinions and experiences and learn a lot about the criminal justice system and represent their neighborhoods. So we always get great representation from wonderful applicants on the Upper West Side. Would love to see that for this program too. Also happy to share that with folks who are interested. My email is just my last name and my first initial, mayenza@danny.nyc.gov. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great holiday season.
Any last public session speakers, please come on up. Anyone else? Last one, okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Luca. I'm here from the District Office of Councilmember Sean Abreu. We've got a few things to share. I'll make them quick. Firstly, as a sort of legislative update, A few weeks ago, the city council passed a trash containerization bill, which will extend the West Harlem sort of pilot program all throughout the city. So you're going to see a bunch of Empire bins on the side of the streets. Yeah, so look forward to that. So although the deadline for participatory budgeting has ended, they extended it. So if you have any ideas for participatory budgeting, please go to the idea map on the city council website. The week leading up to Thanksgiving, we gave out about 950 turkeys. I know because I gave out about half of them. And we will have the Department of Finance at our office this Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. to help with scree issues or any other finance issues you have with the city. If you'd like to schedule an appointment with that, come find me and I'll book you in our system. Citizens NYC is providing grants for community leaders and of up to $5,000 in conjunction with our office. So we're gonna have a Zoom info session of that I'll share the information with the community board. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right. Take it away, gentlemen.
We are going to close the roll call. So this is the last 10 seconds for you to vote if you have not voted, to track your attendance. I feel like I've seen some people that have not yet voted who are in this room. So please do so if you have not done so already. I mean, I know some people have said stuff to me already, but okay, we're gonna close it in like 10 seconds.
Harry, would you like to join me? Join us.
Thanks, Alex. So first item on the agenda for the business session, bylaws amendment. This is something that was drafted in consultation with Alex and Beverly. Fairly straightforward. It gives board members the option before they're asked to vote on a resolution to see a resolving clause in writing. That's more or less it. The goal is really to improve the efficiency of board operations and really to make sure that everybody has the ability to meaningfully engage in the drafting of resolutions, which is central to what we do. Many times there's a sense that we know exactly what's going on with the resolution, application for BCI, for example, which is really just an up or down vote. In those cases, you can just go around the table, no requirement that there's anything in writing. But sometimes when we're discussing issues, it can be a little unclear exactly what it is that the proposal is. Somebody may want to offer an amendment, but they're not sure what they're amending. And in those circumstances, this gives people just the option to ask for the resolving clause to be in writing. More or less it.
So I voted against this because I've been on this board for a long time, and I don't think there's a need for this kind of confine in the way that we have a resolution and the way we vote in committee. I think 99 out of 100 times we are basically in agreement. It's not that everybody is unanimous, but there's no issue. And I think that when there is an issue, it's up to the committee to figure it out. And I don't think we need this. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Barbara. I mean, as a practical matter, the committees once a month, the full board meets once a month. Often committee discussions lead to resolutions, most of which, as Barbara pointed out, are generally in agreement with the committees. And if you start doing this and enforcing it, you're going to have a situation where committees discuss something, agree on a resolution, and can't pass it. And that means the next month, full board meeting, they can't report it and pass it, and it's going to delay the entire process. I think that this is a solution in search of a problem. And as Barbara said, We've done it without this for years. What we'll do is hinder the process and serve no particular purpose. I strongly urge that we vote against this.
Thank you. I agree with Barbara and Jay. I don't know why we have this resolution. I don't know why we need it. I respectfully ask you all to vote no on this. Thank you.
I agree with the prior speakers. Often we don't know that we're going to need a resolution. Often people come, we know that we're going to be discussing an issue of importance, and it's been posted and it's been out on the website, and people that are interested come to the meeting, and then something comes up and we need a resolution, or we don't. But I think this is not a good proposal, and I urge everyone to vote against it. I urge everyone to vote against it. I don't think it's necessary.
I just have a question. I want to clarify. We're saying that a proposed resolution needs to be properly noticed, which I think means at least 3 days in advance of the committee meeting. All of that needs to be done before. Because the question then becomes, so I have tried to do this, and I come to the meeting with a draft resolution explicitly saying that it is for discussion, but the public and many of my fellow board members feel like, hey, a decision has already been made by simply having the resolution drafted. So I don't know quite how to resolve that. I understand the desire for clarity, but it feels like both an awful lot of work and also maybe not the best for a full-throated discussion.
I understand people's concerns about this, but I think I get a lot of questions from people of the public about what we're doing, and they find it tremendously confusing that there's something on the agenda and then there's a oftentimes vague discussion about like what elements are going to go into a resolution, and then it disappears for weeks, and then they see it in a new form at full board. And I think we all agree that we are not doing as good a job as we can with making sure that this community board is not 50 people talking among themselves, but hearing from the community and bringing those perspectives in. And I think that having a draft resolution that people from the public can look at and see and decide, okay, this makes sense, or this part is wrong, I need to go to this meeting to like advocate for this. I think that's really important. So to me, this is just making sure that when someone from the public is coming to a meeting, and along with all of us at the meeting, we all are on the same page about what we're talking about. And it makes it much easier for people to understand what's happening, engage. Changes obviously can get made and will get made, but I think it will much better ground conversations at the meeting when you have something that you can actually discuss. And I think when we think about full boards, when we've had resolutions and had friendly amendments and all sorts of things, that's very productive when people can actually see what they're talking about. I advocated for the additional clause at the end because I think, as some people said, there might be a circumstance where we didn't know about something and someone from the public comes and we say, this is a really big deal, we should pass a resolution right now. So by unanimous consent, like, great, there's that opportunity to do that. But I think that it is critical for transparency and to clearly communicate with the public to try to come into meetings with an idea of what it is, not just that the vague topic of what we're going to discuss, but what is the actual outcome we want? What is this resolution going to look like? And as Seema outlined, like, it's a draft for discussion. And I think there will be short-term growing pains with people thinking that it's a predetermined thing. But even in the last, a great example is the West Park draft resolution. The committee voted against what the draft resolution was. So I think very quickly people will learn that this is just a way of grounding the conversation and increasing transparency and making it easier for members of the public to know exactly what we do.
I appreciated that beginning of an explanation, but
to Jay's point about this being potentially a solution in search for a problem, Carrie, it would be helpful to know, like, what was the genesis of this proposed resolution? Is there a specific case that happened recently that highlighted such a problem that it needed this resolution? And then secondly, I understand the principle at stake here, but my concern would be that by requiring unanimous consent, that empowers one person to block an exigent circumstance that where, every person in the committee wants it to happen, but one person for whatever reason objects. And I think that puts too much power in the hand, potentially puts too much power in the hands of a single person who might have an agenda or, might just disagree with the issue.
Hey, I just had a question about the section that says if properly noticed in advance. In my mind, I thought that just meant like the topic, but it sounds like that means like the actual draft resolution. The example I'm thinking of from like the education committee is if school ABC is coming to talk to us about a problem they're having, we probably don't know all the details of that until they are there at the meeting telling us about the problem. So like noticed would be school ABC is coming to discuss current issues or whatever it is, but it would not have any more detail than that.
This would not be a problem for some committees, but for other committees, it would really work a hardship because their be it resolved clauses are incredibly complicated. I have the same concern. I don't know who was speaking back there. I couldn't see, but the same concern about consensus and that it be the unanimous consent. I'd like to propose a friendly amendment that it be the majority of the committee rather than unanimous to waive the requirement. Instead of unanimous consent to waive the requirement, it would be the majority of the committee. Majority of those present.
Second. Yeah. I would be fine with that.
Let me just clarify one thing. Nice example, quite meta of doing it. So is this what you're saying, that I'm replacing unanimous by majority of those
members present?
What would be the text? Marty. So, Marty. Yeah, do you want to answer some of the questions now, Carrie, or should we go to Beverly? Okay. Okay.
So I think what we're doing right now is a very good example of why this is helpful. We have it on the screen. We just discussed it. We can participate in the process. It leads to a better outcome. So to answer a few of the concerns with regards to notice, that isn't bolded. That's not at issue in this. Whatever the requirement is remains. I would think if somebody's bringing a draft resolution to committee, that would be more than sufficient to satisfy that part of the requirement. We're not changing the notice provision. Only the portion that's in bold is what we're proposing to amend. So to answer the question, which I thought was helpful, of whether or not this is a solution in search of a problem, it is not. This stems out of experience on committees where there has been a question, what is it that we're voting on? Where people have made suggestions, and there are nods around the table, but there isn't a vote and it's not reduced to writing. And it's just a show of hands in the end. And nobody's sure what comes to full board. And that's really problematic because sometimes somebody may have a suggestion, that's good, but somebody else may want to tweak it. And so this is about empowering people to propose amendments to resolutions. And I think it's important not to lose sight that at the end of the day, everything needs to be reduced to writing anyway before it comes to full board. So this is really just a question of timing. When are we doing it? And I think the best way to lead to a good outcome is to do it with everybody at the table so that everybody can participate in the drafting. And I think what we're getting at is that when there's broad agreement that we should proceed, when something is non-controversial, then we should absolutely be able to proceed. And I think this amendment definitely gets there. The intent of having unanimous consent requirement was to make it so that for non-controversial items, we just proceed and we'd vote on it. So I think there's broad alignment on the end goal here. And I think this can get us there. But I do think it's important that for people to be able to effectively participate in the process, if they want, they should be able to see what it is they're voting on.
Beverly, do you want to say anything? You had your hand up before.
Yeah, it's just to address my reading of the law is that the requirement for notice is that you notice that the topic is going to be discussed 72 hours ahead to give people in the public and board members an opportunity to be aware of what the meeting will bring. I think there is language that says that where practicable, it makes sense to have the draft resolution available, but that's not a requirement of the law. I just wanted to address Seema's concern around that.
Great. Elizabeth?
Hi, sorry. I just want to reiterate, I think it was what Kristen was saying, if that was Kristen in the room, about just the concern I have with this is that people, if there's a topic or a guest speaker or somebody who comes to a meeting before we've, as Beverly says, given the broad notice that this topic is going to be addressed, if that person comes to a meeting and we already have a resolution in place, I mean, I guess what you're saying is you want us to just edit that or redraft it after we hear the speaker versus having the discussion and then saying, hey, you know, in some cases, we may not have even thought about doing a resolution, but we think, hey, this may be something worth us doing a resolution on tonight. If we don't have a draft duly noticed with this 72 hours in advance, are we able to then do a resolution on it that night? I guess that's my question. And I guess I would just reiterate again my concerns about making sure the meetings are really the places where you have the opportunity to create and actually create a resolution.
Let's give us a few more minutes and then wrap up just to answer a few of the questions. So this is what's happening in committee, not at full board. The notice part is not changing. So in Elizabeth's example, as long as it said we are discussing choppers in the Hudson River and potential resolution, which is what we currently do, you could certainly in the meeting write on a piece of paper, write on Google Doc, write something, the resolving clause only. So you could certainly write, be it resolved that CB7, and you could write the other clauses afterwards, but you could resolve, we do not want more helicopters in the Hudson River. So you could certainly edit live or on written the item. So Richard.
I've been on the board a while and I've never heard any board member say, maybe they're ashamed, but never heard a board member say they didn't understand what they were voting on. We frequently have amendments proposed during the course of a meeting and sometimes change the substance of a resolution. As I read this proposed amendment, it would prohibit that unless a majority of the board agreed to it. It is really unnecessary. Our procedures work pretty well. Almost invariably, before a resolution comes here, it is in writing and it is circulated to the board and the public. What is not circulated and can't be is if there is an amendment being proposed from the floor, or if there is a meeting of a committee just prior to the board meeting for some reason. I think there may be some language that would improve the procedure, but I think this is confusing and potentially damaging to our ability to be flexible at meetings. So I would oppose it. I think it can be rethought, and at the steering committee, and I think it can certainly be improved on.
So I'll just give a brief opposing perspective. I've been on the board a short time, and in that short time, I feel like I have heard frequently that people do not know what they are voting on. I think if you have enjoyed the process tonight of seeing the resolution presented, just like you enjoyed the process of seeing the resolution in advance, of having the amendments made live, of being able to look at the language that we're talking about and really comprehending those edits. Imagine doing all of this without the language on the screen right now. I think it would be much, much harder, much more difficult. I think for the concerns around notice is not a part of the proposed resolution. Only the bolded areas are. And so all of the process leading up to the committee meetings should not change as I understand this resolution. It would only be that at the committee meetings, before you vote on a resolution, there be something put down in writing so that people know definitively what they're talking about. I think we'll see at other points in the meeting tonight, presumably, that there will be instances where people will present proposed amendments or resolutions in writing for people to comprehend at their own pace. I think there's a great benefit to that. I really urge people to recognize that this is not trying to limit anyone's ability to do what they are normally doing. Rather, it's providing structure when it's needed. Thank you. And anyone else? Well, the question's been called. Second? Okay. Voting is open. And a vote of yes is in support of the resolution as amended. If anyone is experiencing tech issues, please raise your hand. Let us know however you can, just so we can track the vote properly. Thank you. Okay, so the final vote is 18 yes, 18 no, 4 abstain, 0 ineligible. So the proposed resolution fails.
Thank you. We'll now go to Brad Hoylman-Siegel online. Stop sharing.
Hello, everyone. State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel here, giving you my last report as state senator, but I will be with you in the future as your next Manhattan Borough President as I succeed the very capable Mark Levine. And of course, I'll be leaning on both Mark Levine and Gail Brewer to be the best borough president that I can be. But I'm finishing up my term. Esther Caroline is, I'm happy to let you know, coming with me to the borough president's office. So that's exciting for me and my team. Closing out my 12 years in the Senate, having passed 426 bills, trying to get a few over the finish line in the last couple of weeks before the end of the year, and hopefully saving them from a veto. One of the bills that I've spoken to you about many times is medical aid in dying, allowing New Yorkers who are of sound mind and have a terminal illness of designated as 6 months or fewer to live, the opportunity to pass in a way that is dignified. We're engaged in chapter amendment negotiations with the governor, so I'm hopeful that we can get that bill actually signed this year. New York will join 11 states and the District of Columbia if, in fact, we do allow death with dignity for New Yorkers. Another bill I'm working on strengthens the protections for abortion care and for parents seeking gender-affirming care for their children. It actually protects physicians and other medical personnel, as well as family members from out-of-state extradition or criminal sanctions. Hopeful that that can get signed in the next few weeks. We're working on chapter amendments with that one as well. And we just passed a law that the governor signed that will end algorithmic rent fixing, basically to stop real estate companies from using AI to set rents through a process of collusion, which in any other instance would be illegal price fixing, but because of a loophole in the law allows landlords to take advantage of that. That has been signed into law, I'm happy to say. But as I enter this new role, I'm mindful of the entirety of the borough, and I'm recruiting staff to reflect the diversity of our borough. You can, if you know someone or you yourself are interested in putting your name into the hopper, we've set up a website. It's at bptransition2025.com. We're looking for a whole range of new colleagues in the areas of land use and constituent relations, intergovernmental work, and of course, deputy borough president. So those are all interviews that we're conducting now, and hopefully we'll have some new team members to join Esther and me at 1 Center Street. So thank you for the last 12 years. I'll continue to work on scaffolding with our local colleagues, quality of life, support for arts, including West Park Church, and ensuring that our public education is the best it can be. So again, it's been a pleasure. I'll be working with you more closely than ever come January. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we'll go to BCI. Michelle? Yes. And let us know if we'll be bundling everything. Okay. I can hold it for you. You want to hold it?
Hi, thanks, everybody. We have 6 applicants, but we divided this into 2 parts. First part, 4 of them are new applicants for liquor licenses, which we approved unanimously for 2, 3, and 4. And the first one, 224 West 104, was 8-0 to 1-0. So, and they're all very exciting. They're all around 105th Street. So it's very exciting to see things are moving uptown and new restaurants are opening. So we're asking you to vote in favor of these applications. We can bundle them all together.
Okay, question is called. Voting is open. We've also been opening the voting in the beginning as an example, so you can vote while the person is speaking, and if you change your mind, you can vote again and it will change. So try voting earlier, seeing how that goes. But yes, voting is open. No voting.
Yes, voting is open. As Alex was saying, voting will be open earlier. Just a few more seconds. We're almost at total vote. Just 5 more. And again, if anyone has issues voting, you can always come to us after. But we'll stop the vote in a moment. We are at 40-0-0-0 carries.
Okay, good job, BCI. Next group of 2 actually is the first one, 150 West 65th Street. That's the Vivian Beaumont Theater. They want to, they have 2 bars. They want to add another one. And 155 West 62nd Street is the Big Apple Circus. This is what they call a seasonal license. And they have 1 bar they want to add 2 more. So they already have bars, but you know, people need to drink. Even water. Water's good too. Well, we passed these resolutions unanimously and ask that you vote in favor. Okay. Question called. You have a question?
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Voting is open.
Okay. Just another 15 seconds or so. Okay, the final vote is 40-0-0-0 carries.
Okay, next up, housing and land use.
Wow, this is different up here. Okay, so our first resolution is pretty straightforward. This is for the building that's almost complete at 36 West 66th Street. It's a BSA application brought to us by Extel Development. It came through BSA because it is built under grandfathered zoning. After this project, DCP tightened, city planning tightened the rules around mechanical spaces and voids. So the original permit for this was issued by DOB in 2017 and 2019. The first BSA renewal to build this project was issued in October 2023 and supported by this board. This is an application for a second renewal, during which they need to show to us that they've made substantial progress, which they clearly have. The building is 92% complete. The resolution passed in committee almost unanimously with just 1 ineligible vote. Any questions? Oh, good. Extel Development. Extel. Sorry, 1 more.
Just a question, Seema. In reading the resolution, it says that the affordable building. Oh, okay. It was about the units.
So the super confusing thing about these 2 blocks is that the addresses are very, very similar. So this is 36 West 66. The next, maybe not the next one, but the one after that is about 30 West 67. Totally different building. 30. It's 30. Next one, next one. Yeah. Okay, call the question? Yes. Okay. No, this is 36. Sorry, this one is 36 West 66. Oh.
And this is for the West 66th resolution. You will receive a reply that says 33. That's incorrect. It is 36 West 66th. Okay, just another like 15 seconds. Okay, we're going to stop the vote. The final vote is 35-101 carries. Oh, sorry, 30.
You need one ineligible for cause? Okay, you got it. Okay. Next topic. Yes. Next resolution is about the Bloomingdale Library project. So I'm going to do a little bit of this. Minna's going to take over, and then we'll open up for public comment and then board discussion. So this project is, I think, our second time at board. It's our third consecutive committee meeting, as well as 2 info sessions. So we've spent upwards of 10 hours at the committee level and also at the board level talking about this project. It's worthy of that kind of discussion, but we want to let you know that this resolution was very carefully crafted. So all of this discussion has led us to the draft letter that you see, which basically lists our concerns about the project. The concerns include affordability, timeline, the RFP process, community engagement, the library program, temp logistics during construction, sustainability, et cetera. EDC and New York Public Library are running this process, which means that this building is a cross-subsidy model. It's meant to self-fund itself, not only the housing of, but also the rebuilding of the library and the moving out of the mental health facility, which Minna will talk about. The reason we're doing this letter is that the EDC is planning to release the RFP any minute now, certainly before the end of the year. And so this is our attempt to basically shape both that RFP and the process in general. Yeah, and so we talked a lot about the affordability line, which maybe we'll talk about again after. Hold on, I'm just going to give Minna, she's going to talk about the library.
So I just wanted to introduce the topic by telling you about the library that exists. This is the building that we're talking about is on 100th Street. It is a building that was built in 1961. It houses a library and the Department of Health. In 2023, they did a remodel that created a new teen center, which is the only teen center on the Upper West Side. The building is 23,000 square feet on 2 floors, and they have their adult and their teen center on the 1st floor and the children's operations on the 2nd floor together with an auditorium. What the proposal would do is use the very large floor area to create both a brand new library and housing on top of it. Some of the housing would be affordable, most of it will not. The Bloomingdale branch of the library is one of the most used libraries in the city. They had over 183,000 visits last year, and over 24,000 people attended their programming. If this project goes through, the library would have significant upgrades that make it attractive to the New York Public Library. So they are partners in this project. They look forward to at least 23,000 square feet, a similar number of shelf space, more technology, and things like that. In our letter, we are requesting that the 23,000 square feet be maintained, that there be a teen center, that the operations be on 2 floors, that there be more technology, more outlets, more programming space, and that during construction, there would be a temporary space for library activities. We understand that it will not be the same square footage that the library currently has, but we are asking that it be sufficient for the use of the neighborhood. We also are asking that programming continue during construction, either at this temporary location or at facilities in the neighborhood, with particular reference to story time and the adult book discussion group. Oh, and that there be adequate staffing during the temporary period, and that the staffing be replaced after the library reopens.
This is one of the most ill-conceived programs ever brought before us. No one, virtually no one at the meetings at the library, which took place, was for this. Let me tell you a couple of things that they said and what the reality is. Number one, there is no clear picture of if there's affordable housing here. And in similar projects in the Heights and the Bronx, everything virtually was paid for by the city and private funds, and a brand new library, state of the art, and total affordable housing. When they said that HPD, who would normally do this, would take about 10 years, later on in their presentation, they showed that EDC doing this, who shouldn't be involved with this at all, it would take 9 or 10 years. So that's no justification at all. Next, the fact that they're talking about 850 units. What is a unit? God knows. And there's no plan. The EDC wants to attract bidders, okay, developers who will tell us what they want to do. We need to tell the developers in the RFP what the community wants. The community wants 100% affordable housing. It's on city land. Let the city give money towards it, and then they can hire someone who can carry out the plan. This is such a bad thing. And the library was closed for many people for 3 years. Under this plan, the library will close for 5 years. I can go on and on and on, but I think we should really, besides the wonderful letter that was written with all the objections. Oh, the last and most important thing. I spoke to Carmen Quinones, who's the president of the 3,000 plus residents of Frederick Douglass houses. We were told that they were consulted. Carmen and 2 community members were at that meeting, not 3,000 plus people. The people from Park West Village said that they weren't consulted at all. And although they spoke to the executive director of Westside Federation, the 1,000-some-odd residents have no idea what's going on, the people who live in Manhattan Valley. I don't know if there was a Spanish version of this survey, but there wasn't a Korean, Haitian, or Chinese version, and we have many of those people living in Manhattan Valley. The local people are in the dark, and they haven't been given adequate access to given. I think we should request, in addition to the things, that they delay any RFP until the new administration has a chance to look at it, particularly around affordable housing.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Uncino, and I lived in the area for some 50 years or so. I applaud what Shelley just told us, and I just add a few other things. The Bloomingdale Library is deeply loved by everyone in the community. It is used, we love the librarians and the facility itself. Our objection is along the lines that Shelley said, but for 2 reasons. One, it's up to developers to say what's the ratio going to be between affordable and market rate housing. It's really a terrible plan. The city, if it were honest about it, would have given this to HPD from the beginning, that understands about housing needs for the city and really is much more connected to the people. The survey that EDC submitted, which I completed, had no opportunity for community input about how we would be adversely affected. So I just want to remind us of how we were in 9/11 when the World Trade Towers were hit. And we felt so vulnerable and frightened. And the firefighters were our heroes in New York. The fire department now has no voice in the city. They're warning us over and over, don't go so high, because we can't have the hoses there to protect people from fires. Our men have to go in and risk their lives over and over again. And still we're going too high beyond what the fire department has warned us about. And we're doing it again if we approve the Bloomingdale Library at 49 stories. The other thing is how we would be adversely affected. The traffic congestion in rush hour is now unbearable. First responders, ambulances cannot get through 7th Street between Columbus and Amsterdam Avenues. The sirens are blaring light after light after light. They can't go through now. Whenever you have construction on one of the transverses through Central Park, it's a much more serious issue to go high. I feel that way also about the building in the 60s, 30 more seconds. All right, but back to 100th Street. The 96th Street, 97th Street transverse affect 100th Street because we have no 98th and 99th Streets to absorb traffic. So it's one thing. Please vote against this disastrous program that the city is ramming down your throat. Thank you.
We're just going to have members from the public briefly. I don't know if you want to speak as a co-chair, you certainly can jump up. But oh, sorry. I thought you were chair of the committee still. I think there was one. Jeffrey. Maybe not. Okay, if that's not the case, then we will go through board members now. Oh, yes.
Just to clarify, though, we are not approving or disapproving the project. We are simply approving or disapproving the draft letter, which has our comments primarily about the RFP process and the numerous questions that it raises.
So we have 1, 2, and then we're going to 3, and I'm going to jump in and go 4.
Good evening, everybody. I live down the block from the area in question. We desperately need housing. It's very sad that the city is not doing it the way it used to, where basically they would pay for everything. They've created a new approach, which is where the city will pay next to nothing and where the city will basically create a situation to tempt developers to build with some affordable housing. It's not ideal, but it's better than no housing. We desperately need housing in this city for all sorts of people, and we desperately need housing that's affordable. Is it perfect? No. But to pretend that the city is going to suddenly give us all this money, or developers are going to give us all this money, is a waste of time.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's really disingenuous for people to say, oh, this is going to take 9 years, and at the same time say, we should delay this RFP. The reason that our neighborhood has built 0 units of affordable housing is because people are scared to bring projects in our neighborhood because we delay things, we argue, we say it has to be different. We are in a housing crisis. Right? It's an emergency. Everyone knows that, right? It's our number one thing that we say in our district needs every single year is we need more affordable housing. And here is the city saying, you have this site. We have come up with a way for basically $0 to bring you more housing, more affordable housing, and a new library. And they have asked us all sorts of questions that we have responded to in this letter that has now taken many, many meetings, had lots of iterations. which is our chance to say, this is what we want. And that's why I'm hoping tonight that people vote yes on this so we can send this letter and say, here's how we think the process should run. But to say we need to delay this project because we don't think the process has been perfect means that next time EDC or HPD is trying to figure out where do they want to put their limited time and their limited money, they're going to look at the side and they're going to say, these people are obstructionist. They make it really hard for us to do our job, and they're going to go somewhere else, which is why our neighborhood has built 0 units of affordable housing. So either we want affordable housing and we're willing to say yes to affordable housing, or we can delude ourselves by saying we want the project to be absolutely perfect, even if that means that all of us in the room are dead before the project ever gets built.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with everything Adam said. I would also add, so I don't agree with everything that Shelley said, but even if I did, I would say we should still vote yes, so we can send this letter, which includes most, if not all, everything Shelley said, so we can have an impact on the RFP, which is going out another year with or without our input. So for that reason, we should vote yes.
Okay, I have been the fly in the ointment throughout this, but I come with a lot of new data that I will hopefully not bore you too much with. I agree that we should vote yes on this. I do have an amendment to it, and it is specifically about the affordability. I hear the concerns of the community, and I hear the concerns of the board members, but I wholly agree with Adam here that we have to move forward, and the notion that we want this to be on an accelerated timeline, but we want more time to look at things is inconsistent. That being said, I think the biggest issue here is that the proposal that we saw from EDC is wholly inconsistent with other projects, major projects around the city recently. The most notable one and the most relevant one, I think, is the Gansevoort Square project, which is in on 15th Street, excuse me. And that was just, the RFP went out for that. It was just approved. Or I guess the bid was won by, I guess it doesn't matter. But the result of that is that they are building it's 55% affordable housing, 50% was the minimum, which was included in the RFP process. And it is a total of, I think it's 550 units, excuse me, 590 units. Just a quick timeline for that. They went to Community Board 2 in December 2024. The committee, land use committee, voted on it, proposed a resolution in December. January, full board, they put forward their letter asking for 100% affordability. And the end of January, the RFP went out, and then it was just awarded recently. I will point out that Community Board 2, where they represent, their median household income is very comparable to ours. It's only, I think, maybe like 10% or so different, but their poverty level is a third of ours. So they are at 5.4% poverty level. We are at, I think, a little over 14%. So I think that's really significant and really telling that in a project in Manhattan, in a wealthy neighborhood where people are making comparable incomes, EDC thought that it was important and relevant enough to put in their RFP process and in their presentation to the community board that 50% affordable housing would be the minimum. And what we had is MIH, which is 20 to 30%. I think that is totally unacceptable. We have a higher poverty level. We have a greater need. As has been pointed out, we have not built affordable housing. I think we have to keep at least to that same standard of 50%, which is a proposal that I will put in. I'll make just a couple quick other additional points for some other projects. They are not as relevant because they are in other parts of the city, but the Willets Point project, it's 2,500, 100% affordable housing out in Queens. It's again, I have a lot of data that I will skip over, but different models. So the Gansevoort project is a 99-year lease of the land, nominal fee. Willets Point is a 49-year. HPD is involved in that process. I also want to point out for libraries in Staten Island, the wealthiest district out there is receiving, they've just completed one project for $17 million for one library. They have a second going there. So I think the notion that the housing in this building needs to fund the library is ridiculous when we have the money to fund it in the wealthiest neighborhoods in Staten Island. We can certainly find the money to do it here. Again, I will try to kind of wrap it up, but all of that is to say, I don't know if you want me to share my proposed change, but in the first part of the letter, there is a section on affordability. I think that this is the opportunity for us to keep this consistent with what was recently approved at the Gansborough project, and we have to request 50% minimum affordable housing. 50. And I can share. Right now, there's. Oh.
Yeah, we're still in discussion. Just in terms of practicality, what this resolution does is to say that the community board confirms the letter. What we have, I think the resolution to amend would say we confirm the letter, but we insist that the RFP contain a minimum of 50% affordable housing.
So my proposed adjustment is there's a couple bullet points that you can ignore below the red, but it's just to the first part of the letter. I've crossed out some sections and added in effectively what is a starting point here, which is ultimately it's a minimum of 50% permanently affordable housing on the site. And I think we'd probably have to adjust that language slightly to note that it's the percentage of the floor units. No, this letter is not in the city's hands.
%. The question is 50% of what? We could say 50% of the square footage of the structure. Okay. And I'd like to make another amendment, but
Can we keep the discussion open before we vote on that? Is that acceptable? Okay.
So there is something about this that feels like it's being jammed down our throat. But I agree with what a lot of my colleagues said. We have a housing crisis, but we have an affordable housing crisis, not a luxury housing crisis. And I know that there's a lot of theory behind building more in every single asset class, which sort of all ships rise with the tide. That's a little too close to trickle-down economics for my comfort. I don't know that it actually works like that, but it might. So just thinking about the fact that we are on the cusp of an entirely new administration, less than a month. We're probably going to have changes heads to a lot of departments. And also thinking back on the reason I got into community board to begin with was the Mitchell-Lama program, was the president of the Mitchell-Lama Tenant Association and also on the Mitchell-Lama Task Force. I realized we don't have that, but I've heard whispers of programs like that coming back. And that was the perfect combination of private and public funds administered by the city. I wish we had that. We don't. I hope that our new leadership is going to come up with something like that, because being that this is city property, mandating affordability. I mean, Mitchell-Lama was 100% affordable, but really was middle income, which I think is really what we need even more. So 850 units is a massive unit. Some of the Mitchell-Lamas in our neighborhood or former Mitchell-Lamas are 160, 180, maybe 200. 850 is massive. These are economic models that have to work, but I feel like this is such a rush job. I know we need to send a letter because it's going to happen anyway, but I just really think that the concept of public and private partnership like the Mitchell-Lama was one of the best things we've ever had, and we should be working toward a model like that in the future.
More housing and do it fast. Yeah, great. I'm still not totally sold on why this has to go through EDC. Like, the city is making a choice to do that. And I think we as a board have muscle to say that we don't want that. I don't think that this has to go through EDC. And when I asked EDC at the meeting about other housing they've done, they kind of blew off the question. And the truth is they haven't built that much housing. As Michael referenced, they're in the middle of some projects now, but it's not like they've completed a lot. And I personally was very underwhelmed with a lot of their answers at the meeting and their community engagement. And so I'm not so thrilled about letting EDC run away with this project, but I agree that the letter is probably the best thing we have now, but I just wanted to get that.
Yeah. So I think it's really important that we send a letter because that is supported by the community board, because otherwise we won't have the opportunity to weigh in, and this RFP is moving with us or without us. I personally, on the housing issue, am very upset by the fact that the city has come to us and essentially said, our neighborhood cannot get subsidies. The reason this is with EDC is because subsidies go to neighborhoods where the inherent land value isn't as high as ours. Because our land value is high, they want to push everything into this cross-subsidy model. And I think that we should, as a board, if not here, at least at some point, express our opposition to that, that we should be saying that our neighborhood is just as entitled to subsidies from the city because we want to build affordable housing. And if we are building cross-subsidized housing, we are always going to get taller, denser, and more unpleasant buildings in order to get the affordable housing that we're looking for. If we are, it is not our fault that we're not getting affordable housing. It is because the city is refusing to subsidize it in our neighborhood and is telling us that we need to lose, you know, air and light in order to get the affordable housing. And that's just wrong.
I just wanted to speak quickly about some differences between this project and the one in the West Village. Obviously, the West Village has some of the highest rents in the city. So the value that you're going to get for a rental directly on the Hudson River next to the Whitney Museum is just always going to be higher than, as great as the Upper West Side is. But we're not going to get the same rent. And I think the other big difference that plays a huge role is that that building, the developer will be able to develop ground floor retail, again, in an extremely expensive neighborhood. And that ground floor retail will also help cross-subsidize the affordable units, where in this case, the proposal is to have them develop a library, which obviously will not be paying rent. So I think there's some structural differences between the two projects that explain why there are differing estimates of what the achieved affordability could be. What we know right now is that the project would have, at a minimum, because of the zoning change, 25 to 30% affordable square footage. And I think the expectation is that the developers will, in order to win the RFP, will come with numbers that are even higher than what would be mandated by mandatory inclusionary housing in the zoning code.
I'll just because that was a reference to my point, I'm just going to quickly say I looked up the data on this as well. The difference in rent in that neighborhood and this neighborhood, it's a 20% difference. So you get 20% more per unit in the West Village than you would pay here. So 20% more in money there is somehow resulting in 100% more units, like 100% more affordable units. To me, that math doesn't make sense. I think that number should be a lot closer. I think we should still keep to that level.
I'm on the YEL committee and I was part of this conversation. And it was a really great introduction for me as a new board member to a very thorny issue. And I just want to start off by commending Kristen and Seema for their leadership in trying to focus our conversation around what we can do to influence this process. And as we've heard tonight, there are a lot of strong feelings about the need to build affordable housing. There's a lot of concerns in the community, and trying to balance those things is very difficult, and no one is going to be happy. But I think the most important thing to focus on here is this conversation is not about whether we should have more affordable housing or not. It's not about these whether this project is a bad project or not. It's our opportunity to have a say in shaping this, representing the concerns of the community. Because as others have pointed out, I think this really needs to be emphasized, this train is leaving the station, right? There's an RFP that's going to go out soon. This is our one opportunity to have input and to influence how this RFP is framed and how the process goes. And if we don't do this now, we sacrifice our voice, and I think we have failed the community. And I think there's going to be plenty of time through the RFP process, and if it goes ahead, to represent some of the concerns of the community. I would argue there's too much delay and approvals that are, the idea that this is going to take 9 years, to Adam's point, that it's just ridiculous. In this day and age, it takes 9 years to build an affordable housing project, okay? But be that as it may, I would encourage everyone to vote in support of the letter, because this is not a vote on the project. It's not a vote about the concerns of the community. This is a vote about whether we have a say in this process. And the letter was worked on with a lot of thought. There was a lot of conversation, there was debate, there was amendment, and we produced what I think is a very good product that achieved consensus, which is really hard to do on such an emotionally charged subject.
I feel like I always say the same thing, that the perfect should not be the enemy of the good. Mitchell-Lama housing is great. I grew up in Mitchell-Lama housing. It's not, it doesn't exist. So people need housing now. The thought that someone may propose this at some point in the future doesn't put a roof over someone's head. Similarly with the subsidy from the city, it doesn't seem to be coming. It would be great, but it's not here. We have this proposal, and it's not perfect, but I just want to make one technical point. It calls for the maximum amount of affordable housing. Way back when they came up with 80-20 housing, they decided 20%, not because they didn't want 30% affordable housing, because they thought if they required 30%, they'd get 0%. They chose 20% because they thought that would maximize the amount of affordable housing developers would build. If they made it higher, they'd get none. If they made it lower, they'd get less. So they chose 20%. I don't know what the percentage is that will get something built now that has affordable housing, but I do know the maximum sounds pretty good to me. 50% may be too high. I just don't know. But the point is, we'll never find out unless we call for the maximum amount and see what we can get and go for it. And again, I just want to echo the comment that it's better to participate in the process than not participate in the process. So I'm voting yes, and I hope everyone does.
Okay. I'm really tired of being blamed for the lack of affordable housing on the Upper West Side. We are a very dense neighborhood, one of the densest in the city, and there is very little available land, and there is even less city-owned land. Now, ETC was very, very clear. The reason that they are doing this is because we are a high rent neighborhood, that high rent. So in other words, they build the library, they build a 49-story building with 850 units, of which 75% are going to be market rate. And that market rate rent is going to support the library and the affordable units. There isn't going to be a subsidy from the city. They are doing some kind of circular, you see it, now you don't. On top of that, most people are familiar with the site, right? On 100th Street. Next to the library is the Department of Health building. Next to the library is the Department of Health building. That is going to be gone. So the site is going to be even bigger. They are not proposing a lower building. They are not proposing more affordable. They are proposing more market rate buildings. I am tired of that if we get a small percentage of affordable, we have to live with market rate apartments that on the Upper West Side are so expensive that I think very few people in this room could afford a new apartment. So I'm just saying that what Doug said, the idea of public-private partnerships, trying to find more city-owned space, is there. We should use it and not let them give it away.
So I think it's important to clarify where we are procedurally. A version of this letter was sent, but not with a resolution indicating support of the full board. What we're proposing is to send a slightly modified version of the letter that takes into account the EDC's response to the November committee letter, and attach a resolution that says that the full board supports this. And I believe that because Michael has proposed slightly amending the letter, that we have to vote on both the amendment. Yeah, we're currently discussing both the proposed amendment and the letter itself, right? So we need to take votes. We need to take votes on both of them. Is that correct? Your understanding of where we are? Yeah. Okay. So I think that I would like to support both the letter and the original wording of the letter. Delay is a problem. You know, if the city needs housing, it needs affordable housing, it needs housing in general. And every year that housing doesn't get built is a year that housing does not get built. So we need the housing built as soon as possible. We have the opportunity to send a letter before the end of the year. So we have to choose to send something at this meeting, or we're not going to have any input before the RFP goes out. I think that the committees deliberately chose the language, maximize the amount of affordable housing, which means maximize the amount of affordable housing. Throwing a number against the wall, we can do that, but maximize means maximize. And if our priority is to maximize the amount of new affordable housing that we get on the site, the original version of the letter that passed out of committee is what says that, and that's what I'd urge everyone to support.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, everyone. I just had some questions. Was an impact study provided as to the impact of these 850 units and the population that's going to join the community? Was that provided? That's one question. I understand that, ma'am, but if you project, because when we have construction where in the city where I work and the agency I work in, there's projections, right? So there's a projected plan that includes an impact study, right? Because we're densely populated as it is. So that's why I asked the question. The second question, were the business improvement district leaders in this community board leveraged to have conversations with about what their thoughts were? And in addition to the West Side Federations, the Manhattan Valley Development Corporations, all of the nonprofit housing groups that we have, were they involved in this conversation? Because I didn't see that in any of the literature that I read, so I was concerned. And lastly, why would we settle for a minimum of 50% versus requesting 100%? That's my question. Thank you.
Can I just address those quickly? So the environmental impact statement, the issue with that is the project hasn't yet been defined. Much to our frustration, EDC is relying on the RFP respondents. So what they have told us about the process is that once they select the RFP respondent and their project and development strategy, that is what the environmental impact statement will be determined on. So that is part of the process. Unfortunately, it's part of the 9 years, but hopefully that'll get shorter. Your other questions, I forgot. Sorry. What were the other two questions? Oh, yes. So a few of them are, I spoke myself to Goddard Riverside, who is partnering with the for-profit developer for the project. I can't speak to, we have not been very impressed with the outreach efforts. We know that some has happened, but we don't know the extent of it.
Sorry, to clarify one more piece. EDC, this isn't, the reason they're not proposing this as a nonprofit project is because the city's not paying anything for this. What EDC said at the meeting is that, at the committee meeting, is that they would expect that the developer would build a building that would have as much affordable housing as possible. Yeah, include the library, and they would pay rent or purchase the land. So it's not a city project. It would be, the city would receive value for the land.
I'd just like to make one comment on Michael's amendment. My only concern, so we did, I think Dan probably put it best, we did spend too loud. We did spend a ton of time workshopping the language, and we came up with this very specific phrase that says the greatest amount of affordable housing square footage possible, along with the deepest affordability possible. The concern about 50%, I'd love to ask for 100%, but would that mean that we get 160% AMI? That's also not something that I think our community would appreciate. So there has to be some balance just in terms of the financial, how much affordable square footage versus how much affordability AMI levels we're contemplating.
Ira is going to have just one more comment, and then we'll talk about specifically the amendment to this letter, and then we'll try to keep this moving because we're about an hour left for the meeting.
In regards to the amendment, the committees spent a lot of time getting to the wording that's in black. I think changing the wording to what's in red does not help us. We have a situation where there is a biological imperative that we all be housed in this climate and at this density. There is no biological imperative amongst for-profit or nonprofit developers to do so much as put up a park bench if there isn't a ability to do that. And in terms of RFPs, I'll give you an example. Sometimes you get more than you ask for. I wrote an RFP a number of years ago for the Educational Construction Fund. I was on 4 of the 5 teams that responded to the RFP. The critical thing in the RFP was to deliver 2 schools, very similar situation to what we have here. 2 schools and apartment building. The winner delivered 3 schools and the apartment building. So that was far and above and beyond. So leave it to the creativity for anybody to figure that out. They'll probably want to deliver more affordable housing once you phrase that as a need and a desire, and that's already phrased in there because they expect you to use inclusionary housing. So if they want to survive this process, that's what they'll do, and let them figure out how to do it, because you may get more than you're asking for. But if you ask 50%, they're going to go for their biological, the developers, profit or non-profit, are going to go for their biological imperative, which is to survive, to do something else somewhere else.
Okay, so specifically, we're going to just either vote on the amendment or have any last comments. Again, I would just say that this amendment was specifically put in at 50% based on the recent project, which was approved and has gone through the RFP process. That's where this number comes from. It's a comparable neighborhood, a comparable project. I know it's not exactly the same, but that's where this came from. I think that we can, and Community Board 2 asked for 100%. They got 50%, which is what EDC started with. So, they're probably going to ignore us anyway, but I think we should at least be on the record for demanding as much, if not more, than what's already been approved.
Could you clarify which are the changes that we're voting on? Because I think the part that starts with 100% is also an amendment, right?
Correct. So that the only thing that we are voting on would be the red text, some of which is crossed out, which was the original language, and then the red bullet. I had several other points, but for the sake of time, for the sake of the possibility that this actually be passed, I selected the one that I thought was the most likely, which is one that is consistent with the Gansvort project, which again was recently approved. And anything below and or you can ignore, sadly.
All right, let's call the question. We're voting on this proposed. Okay, let's open the voting and then we're gonna. Last question.
I have, Michael, a friendly amendment to your amendment. Because I think we left out part of the sentence that said deepest affordability. I do think that was an important component of the sentence. We had crossed out where it says deepest affordability, but I think that's consistent with your ask for 50%. So I think we could keep the deepest affordability possible section.
Okay. We're voting on the amendment in red to the letter, and then we will vote on whether or not we will ratify the letter at all. The amendment is that in the affordability section, let's open the voting. As the public, yep. As this is public city-owned land, highest priority should be given to affordable housing square footage with a minimum of 50% of the square footage of housing units permanently affordable housing on the site with deepest affordability. Again, the grammar, yes. So the voting is now open. You're voting first in order amending the current resolution. That, yep, yep. Yeah. Yep.
The current proposed letter is what is in black. The voting no means we keep that. Voting yes makes the red changes.
Great. Voting is open. Let's get everyone's votes in. Okay, we currently have 10, oh, we currently have 11 because we have Richard, 12, we have 13, 16, 0. Let's get the last votes in. It's unclear how many people have left, so it's important to vote now. You have, that's, how many is that? 30. We're almost there. So I'm gonna give 10 more seconds. I don't know if you haven't voted, please do something now. Yep. Okay.
Okay, at this point, we will stop the vote. Sadly, I must concede that this has failed. 16, 21, 1, 0.
Okay, now John or Seema, we're voting on the.
Yeah, shall we vote on? Oh, sorry, give 1 second, but we're going to be voting on the resolution and letter as is.
One more time for everyone.
Now we're voting on Bloomingdale Library Project resolution, which ratifies the letter. And it's not in the form that you see in your resolutions.
There's misinformation here tonight. Manhattan Valley is a certified, authorized federal poverty area. It's not a middle class, up class neighborhood. Some of the rents are, but it's mainly working people, and it's a and federally recognized as a poverty area, although it's in 10025. The city could have provided money because it's just as poor as other areas. That's on the side. Inadequate outreach was done to the neighboring communities, Frederick Douglass Houses, Park West Village, the 1,000+ residents of senior residents in Manhattan Valley, and many others. I propose an amendment, given the inadequate outreach to the community surrounding the project, that the EDC extend by 1 month the outreach for proper outreach and survey of the people in the community, and that outreach should include the languages of the people in that community, including, besides English, Spanish, Haitian Creole, Korean, and possibly others. And I think that needs to be a part of this, because to not involve the people who are going to be affected, not to hear from them, really spoils the project even more.
What I would request is that we finish this vote, Shelley, because it's in process and it's been called. But then I'm happy to have a resolution to ask EDC to postpone sending the RFP for an additional month. I think that would be fine to have as a second one. Shelley agrees with that. Okay, we have a few more seconds left. Can we go to the voting? This is the time to get your voting in. Is there a question, Seema? No, we're not going to amend. The voting is open. We're voting to ratify the letter that, as written, that was presented in the docs to everyone. What? We're already voting. You get 1 sentence.
But it has nothing to do with this. Everyone should know that there's only been one and a small project in the first quarter century from 2000 to 25, and that's 108th Street, which is less than and 107th Street, the Goddard building, which is a small building, so that 75% of what's been built in the last quarter century in that community is not affordable.
Okay, great. The voting, what? Okay, yeah, let's close the voting now. Yep.
Last chance to get your votes in, but right. Okay, so the final vote is 32,400 carries.
Okay, now we have we have a resolution proposed by Shelley, which, can I verbalize it, Shelley? That we ask a resolution asking EDC to postpone for 1 month the RFP and do an additional survey in multiple languages, in the language. And all the people in the immunity committee. Yes. Do we have a second? Okay. Yeah. You can make an amendment. You can make a proposed resolution at any moment. So he's proposed a resolution. It's been seconded. What was the other question? So the resolution is that we, the Community Board 7, are asking EDC to postpone for 1 month the sending of the RFP, the publishing of the RFP, in order to do an additional survey in all the official languages of the city of New York, as well as making sure that members of the current community are well noticed and participate in the survey.
I will say that this is absurd. I'm sorry, Shelley. We've had more time. This community has more time to input this and other. And there was a vote, and you were out of order with it. There was, yes. It's not a judgment, Shelley. No, Shelley. It's not an opinion. You proposed a resolution. I'm providing a comment. This process, we have had more time as a community to provide input than other similar projects around the city. 1 month is not going to change that. If you want to vote on it, fine, but they are going forward without us.
Let's remember to keep it civil.
So just to be clear, we also do have a paragraph in our letter about process and how inadequate the community engagement process was, and we would like them to do a better process. So I mean, we can add in about more languages there. That's not a problem.
Yeah, but we're doing this as a separate resolution.
Alex, and to say that 1 month won't change anything is really ridiculous. We're trying to make a point that is essential to the community, and to have more time because they have neglected certain things that are essential to the development of this project. Therefore, we should be able to say that we are asking for, in fact, a consideration of some of the points made, and to do it in the next 3 months, because we are now living in a time, obviously, of a change in administration. So 1 month is too little, 3 months is good. And in the process, we can be saying what we want and need with a greater degree of grace, clarity, and good points. It counts, and that's what we should do.
I mean, to the point, we have already ratified a letter that we will be sending. So I'm not sure what other results you're going to see in a survey that is going to lead you to change the letter we've already ratified. But listen, there has been a resolution that was seconded. We're going to vote on it. Please open voting. And one last comment from Mr. Broadhunt.
Yeah, I think this is the wrong approach, so I'm going to vote no. But I think Shelley has a really good point, which is, if this RFP is released, I think it'd be very productive for the committee to look at the RFP and say, like, these are things that we think are good in it. These are things that are bad. And I think it'd be totally fine for us next year to pass a resolution to EDC saying that, because, this is a 9-year project, saying if this project moves forward, this is the type of outreach we think you should do in the future. And I think that would be much more productive for us to do. I think passing a resolution saying during December, when everyone's busy with the holidays, do more outreach is a little misguided. So I'll be voting no.
Okay, the question is open. Yep. We've called the question. Voting is open. It's time to vote. We have some other business to attend. Get your votes in. What do you think? 10 more seconds, Michael? Okay, 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, this doesn't carry. The final vote is 8-24-0-0. What's next? Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Jennifer Malsby. I'm a new co-chair to the Preservation Committee, and this is a joint committee and joint resolution between Housing and Land Use and Preservation for the application by Extell Development to the Landmarks Preservation Commission for a certificate of appropriateness to demolish the existing modern structure and construct a new structure within the Upper West Side Central Park Historical District. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing. Forgive me. There we go. Is that working? Thank you. So this is the existing condition. It's a 14-story commercial building. It cannot be easily transformed into a residential building because the windows are fixed and the elevators are not going to be serviceable for residential properties. This is the view from the north, looking west and looking east, what is proposed. It's a brick building, 9 stories, residential with some mixed use on the main floor. This is one of the important pieces here, the streetscape elevation. This is looking south. And so you see the building in the yellow. This is the proposed building, 30 West 67th. There's the stables on the east side, and to the west, there's a building that's almost as tall, or actually a little bit taller, with the centerpiece than the building that they're proposing. The next is the elevation looking north. And this is one of the considerations for the committee. While the resolution asks us to approve the appropriateness of the demolition and the construction of a building that is more appropriate to the historical district, the additional pieces of the resolution is to ask for consideration for a taller building, apropos to our discussions in the last hour about increasing the height of the building from 9 floors to perhaps a maximum of 14 floors, as seen and reflected in the buildings across the street as well. So there is precedent for taller buildings in the area. And there's an opportunity for Extel to come back and propose something taller so that we have more affordable housing in the district. This is one of the also considerations that we've asked for additional information. We received additional information confirming that this is the plan and this is part of what I understand from the housing and land use experts on our committee, that the setback, as you can see here, is typically in this area is a 30-foot setback, which would allow for green space and the maximum use of the outdoor space, the rear yard. This particular drawing, the rendering is appropriate to what is zoned there. And we've asked for further consideration from Extel to think about the residents in the building and to maximize the use of the green space as much as possible. These setbacks on the east and the west side are common spaces, and there'll be green space on the top, but to really think through, is this the best use, the best green space? Is this the most hospitable use of the setback? We've talked about these major issues here, and the resolution is to approve the demolition of the existing building and replace it with a new building that is appropriate to the historical district. And then we've asked for consideration that the height be increased, and that we also ask for consideration to create a more usable, more green space, more resident-friendly 30-foot rear yard to maximize the common outdoor space, despite the zoning restrictions that would allow it to have those 2 setbacks.
The voting is open if you want to vote now, but Matt.
This is a building of 100% affordable housing, so Extel says.
Yeah, there was sarcasm there. I don't know if everyone caught that, but yes, agreed.
So because this is a housing issue also, we had a joint meeting and we addressed it. It's a 9-story building that they are putting up. It's being done. I'm sorry if I overlap a little because being behind you, I was getting a lot of reverb. Okay. So anyway, what's there right now is a 14-story building. They are taking it down. They're putting up a 9-story building. It is being designed by Robert A.M. Stern Associates, and will probably be a very nice building. We have some concerns about this. First of all, there will be 91 apartments, studios only. So 90 of them will be studios, and there will be 1 2-bedroom apartment for the super. We have some problems with this, and we are continuing to discuss with them the fact that even seniors need something bigger than these small units that are being proposed to us. We believe that the building can be considerably higher. It can go according to the zoning up to at least 20 stories, and it would match the eclectic buildings that are on 67th Street, which range from fairly short to fairly tall. The big issue that we are concerned about is the lack of any green space. There is no rear yard because it is on such a huge lot, more than 1.5 acres. There is no required rear yard. So they have put in, you can see right here, there's a picture of the rear of it. There are these two projections that come out in the back and will go all the way to the rear lot line. And then in the middle is this small inner court that will be 20 by 40 feet. Somewhere in there, there is also some balconies, etc., on higher floors. But we are asking them very, very strongly that to provide green space and some kind of rear yard that the people who are in the building, who live in the building, can enjoy. So that's a very strong ask for us, but unfortunately it's not required, but we are asking for it.
So, Louisa, did I hear you correctly that these are going to be only studios? So I'm surprised that given the huge demand in this district for housing for families, that we would not ask for a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom to support families.
We brought that up already to them and told them that's what we want. They said this is what they want to do. We are still discussing it.
Let's go to questions. Remember, this is this came to the preservation. This is a preservation issue to approving the facade and how the building looks, not what is inside the building. This is why this resolution is written as it is.
I just find this interesting. Again, the same developer is here, and even though it is a separate and distinct application, it's surprising that we're sort of doing this in a vacuum, because this property, as Seema just answered my question, the air rights are contiguous to the entire ABC site, which includes the super tall. Some people are affectionately referring to as the Empire State Building on the Upper West Side. So I think there is leverage here. We're still trying to negotiate with this developer as to what type of affordability he may or may not do around this neighborhood. And I assume, and this is just an assumption, that he may not want to make this building taller, because it may not be part of an agreement that he has with a community-based operator. I noticed that I watched the recording and they would not answer what's happening in the building, which I thought was a little offensive. But I'm guessing that there may be resistance to making this building taller, even though I think we all would like that, because that would take away from the contiguous air rights that he'll move into the super tall. So it's just interesting calculus here. I mean, I know that the building that's there is not a contributing building to the preservation, to the historic district. So I have no problem with it coming down, because I don't think it's, when the historic district was claimed, that they were really thinking of that building. It's more Art Deco, but I just want you to sort of think about it in the totality, not in a vacuum, because we are still very much in discussions with this developer.
Yeah, I mean, this is supposed to be 100% affordable, but it's only for seniors. And at this point, they are just telling us this. We don't have anything really in writing.
being on the Preservation Committee, I was at the joint meeting, and this is appropriately a ruling, asking for a ruling on the appropriateness of the structure, which we all agreed was really a fine design and appropriate to the district. My question is, I also have a concern about the fact that they're proposing 90 studios when, as Kevin said, there is a terrible need for family housing. And I think the ideal would be a mixture of different size apartments. Is there any reason why the Housing and Land Use Committee can't submit a separate resolution calling for that?
There's no reason that housing and land use can't separately do that. But under the landmarks statute, landmarks cannot regulate density. And so asking landmarks to do something related to the number of units doesn't work. So preservation, but if housing and land use wants to take it up, they can.
I'm not suggesting that. Do it.
Well, I actually, right. I think it's actually a good idea because we've had a couple of occasions recently where we had joint meetings and our missions are so different that they kind of clash. And because preservation is concerned with the exterior and housing very much with the interior. Different concerns. Better said. Better said.
All right, the voting is in. You have 10 seconds. 5, 4. Okay, finished. And the final vote is
So final vote is 27-01 carries.
Okay.
Oh, wait, we have, okay, we'll give people. Okay. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds. It's still open. Still open.
We'll also call the Honorable Gail Brewer quickly.
Okay, final vote will be 32-11.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I came from Brooklyn. I made it. First of all, thank you for this discussion on December 9th. It's both the West Park Presbyterian Church and this topic. And I just want to say for those who are all concerned about family housing, this is not over. We are going to get 30% affordable on this 2.4 acres if my life depends on it. And I love working with you, but he's going to have to do family housing and he can do some seniors. He's going to have to do family housing. And the second thing is little small issues, the bridle path full of cars, cops, parks, illegal plaques, etc. So we had a meeting with parks and the cops. And to their credit, they got rid of some of the cars that had dust on them and leaves and God knows what else. So it's down quite a few in terms of the numbers. I don't know that I can get rid of all of them, but we're going to move them to one side. So they're not on both sides. Anyway, it's a step in the right direction. It's not my favorite to have cars there, but it's a beginning of getting the numbers down. The River Run Playground at 76 in the park is going to be presented here on the 15th, as you know, and we've received tons of feedback on that issue, and I hope it'll come and be part of your agenda. Generally in the situation of bathrooms, that's a problem at River. It's a problem at Saul Bloom. It's a problem at Dinosaur. So at Dinosaur, the first estimate for the friggin' bathroom was $13 million. And then we've gotten it down. So we got state money, city money, and I'm trying to get another couple of million from the governor, which I think is going to happen. And that could at least build the basic bathroom and get us started towards $13 million. It's crazy. In terms of 96 and Broadway, rats, pigeons, and a building. So we are working with Parks Department. They've been fabulous. And we have, I don't know, some kind of contraption. We've been trying to talk to the feeder of the pigeons to stop. and there are fewer pigeons. We need to get the roof fixed of that building because then there'd be more activity coming and going. So we're working with Broadway Malls and the parks. We're also working with Theodore Roosevelt and all of the rat issues there. We're working, there's so many vacant stores. This is not a new issue, but we are working with lots of groups to try to address that. Particularly, we have a bill that I think will come up next year. Believe it or not, we've been working with the real estate industry, the folks from Manhattan Chamber of Commerce and others. We'll run it by you before anything happens to see if we can have some impact on that issue. My FOIL bill passed. People are really happy about that, meaning that it'll be easier for people to get their FOILs answered. We also, as you probably saw in the paper, had a big success with 9/11. That bill passed. 20 years. We've been trying to get the boxes with what New York City agencies had in terms of 9/11. And it passed. The Department of Investigation did what FOIL didn't in the past, and the letters and the press conferences. And I went to the 7th floor of the Department of Environmental Protection, and we went through 22 boxes of material from 9/11. They were in good shape. We have there's 68 total at that agency, and I think there are more in other agencies. We're going to get them all. We are looking for more memos than the number of toxic sightings and all of the electronic material that is in there. We're looking for, I would say, smoking gun memos. So far, they have not been found, but there's a great deal of people working on it. Tomorrow, we are having a hearing on 3 bills that would hopefully help people if they have a city FEPS to be able to get that voucher moving so that they can get an apartment. It is the slowest process now to get out of the shelter with your FEPS and then be able to get an apartment. It takes forever. So we're hoping that these 3 bills will help that process. We're working with Christine Quinn and WIN, which is a wonderful organization. We have bills on police radio encryption. The police hate to have that shared, but we believe it should be opened up more so more people can get that information. We're working on a land bank. We're working on some condo board bills. And then my crazy idea, at least it'll be a study, to have housing and a discussion of Ward's Island. That's the only Manhattan place where there's a lot of land. And there's no reason we couldn't do something like Mitchell-Lama 2.0 or a Roosevelt Island on Ward's Island. And then we just have all of the upcoming issues. We have SNAP, we have in our office, we have veterans, we have housing, and we have people working on SCREE. And then something really crazy, there's something called SS United States. And it's a big, huge ship, a beautiful ship. And some friggin' county in Florida wants to make it literally turn it into, I would say a nesting place for their fish. And so they probably will end up being destroyed and down at the corral for the fish in this crazy county in Florida. But anyway, we're trying to save it. Just a Hail Mary is what it's called. Thank you very much.
All right, HHS, last one. Sarah Lee, please.
Not fun to be last. I think what I'm going to present is not controversial. Microphone, can you hear me? Okay, I don't think this is controversial, but the Health and Human Services Committee is asking you to support a resolution in favor of Intro 1096, which is a bill before the City Council that would allow city retirees to keep their traditional Medicare benefits rather than being required to enroll in a privately administered Medicare Advantage plan, which is not as good for them. The facts underlying this proposal are that there are approximately 250,000 retirees who depend on Medicare for their well-being. And historically, the city has relied on the traditional Medicare Part B and supplemental Medigap plans, which provide broad access to providers nationwide and don't require pre-authorizations. More than 95% of healthcare providers accept this form of traditional Medicare, making it very accessible. So in 2018, New York City's government decided to reach an agreement with major public employee unions to cut $600 million in healthcare costs by switching the city's 250,000 retirees to a privately managed Medicare Advantage, which typically comes with lower premiums. But lower premiums also means that the Medicare Advantage plans can restrict provider access, increase out-of-pocket costs, impose pre-authorization barriers, and limit treatment options. So the retirees sued, good for them, arguing that the city's efforts to mandate enrollment in Medicare Advantage plans violated long-standing commitments by the city to the retirees. After years of litigation, in June of 2025, this year, the city abandoned its plan to move retirees to the Medicare Advantage plan. And the city council now has legislation before it to ensure that wouldn't be reversed. And this intro 1096 would amend a section of the administrative code by adding protections against any diminishment of retirement health care coverage or contributions, including banning forced enrollment into Medicare Advantage plans or other private alternatives. So therefore, we're asking that it be resolved that Community Board 7 strongly supports Intro 1096 and urges the City Council to pass this bill promptly to safeguard the health of city retirees. Our committee voted for it unanimously.
Oh, there's a question or a comment.
Sorry, everyone. I know everyone wants to get out of here, but I find this resolution somewhat odd. So I have some questions I would appreciate some clarification on. If the courts rule the city's actions illegal and the city withdrew, why is there the need for this legislation? Secondly, how is this specific to CB7 and not, I don't know why we're voting on it and why it's specific to CB7. And third is, if we're going to ban this practice, how are you going to make, does the bill that we're supporting have provisions to provide additional money to cover this additional cost?
I didn't understand some of what you said. I think you asked why, if the courts, because the litigation is ongoing, and the last event in court, excuse me, they didn't drop the case. The case is ongoing. There is
No, the Adams administration dropped the case. But the problem is that another administration could take it up again and could try to do this again. So this would prevent that from happening, because it would codify in the law that they can't force the 250,000 retirees to accept Medicare Advantage. And why in this district? There are lots of retirees in this district, just like in the rest of the city. And so it affects us. And we often take positions on citywide legislation. Right. Yes.
people who were involved in this litigation to pass a resolution to support the bill that is in the city council. Thank you.
Jeff Elmer. I'm a longtime resident of Community Board 7, and just yes, I'm part of the Managerial Employees Association. Retired from the City of New York, 22 years. City of New York, retired. I'm a member of the Organization of Public Service Retirees and also Managerial Employees Association. And we've asked many community boards, and many community boards have passed similar resolutions. And the reason is simply so that there's now no court decision that would prevent the next administration from imposing Medicare Advantage on all retirees. If Medicare Advantage, if some retirees want to have that plan, that's great. They would still be able to do that, but this way they wouldn't be able to force all retirees to go into Medicare Advantage. It's as simple as that. And our great council member, Gail Brewer, is also supportive of this legislation. So thank you.
Are there any more comments or questions from members of the board? Okay, the second question is called. Voting is open. For anyone that hasn't voted, we'll keep it open for another like 30 seconds or so. Okay, like 10 more seconds. Okay, we're going to stop the vote here. The final vote is 29-120 carries.
Righty. I think that's it. New business. Motion to adjourn. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.